Buenas tardes, buenos vidos de nueve el espesito entre podcast. Estamos en el espesito 29. It didn't give me that in Spanish. Con otro invitado especial, Ivan Olier. Hey. Can you translate? Did that make any sense?
Sort of.
Good afternoon and welcome back to the Empty Space Inbetween podcast. We are at episode 29 with another special guest, Ivan Olier. So, Ivan, you know, I mentioned this loads. I always flirt back and say, oh, mate, right, I'm going to learn Spanish. And I've learned, like, Buenas tardes and that's it, because Rosetta Stone does me head in.
Was that close at all, Ivan?
No.
I mean, there was a few words there that
resembled something.
Yeah, I mean, with a bit of inspiration and a bit of imagination. Yeah, you can. No, you're doing well. I mean,
you know what though?
Google Translate's great.
Everyone, whenever I go to Spain, my girlfriend's got dark features, big, thick, curly hair, and I've got curly hair, and everyone walks up to us and starts speaking in Spanish, and we just go, we're English, you know. It's like,
I'll tell you what, I had a funny story when I was in Gran Canaria in Las Palmas. I was on the bus because I just got the bus around everywhere, and as I got off the bus this one day, there was an older lady, so I was like, oh, don't, like, you first, you get off the bus. So she got off and then she turned around and started speaking to me in Spanish. Must have been saying thank you or nothing. And then the one phrase I remembered that you taught me before I went was no hablo español. I don't speak Spanish.
Yeah.
And then she carried on speaking to me in Spanish. So I went, right, I'm going to have to remedy this situation. So I got Google Translate up. And then it was weird. It was like we both turned deaf. So then we didn't actually say anything else with words. So I would type in English something and then show her and she'd go. Then type something in Spanish, then I'd go. And then we were like this for half an hour. So come back and see.
You can say that was a very fluent conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, it happened to me once in Barcelona that an Italian woman, she started to speak to me in Italian. And I said, I don't speak Italian. And she was so upset. I mean, we were in Barcelona. Not in Italy.
Yeah, and she was gutted.
Okay, but anyway.
Yeah. So, Ivan, I know you because you are my primary supervisor. But more importantly, you are a reader at Liverpool John Moores University. Got your hands in many pies, but how would you describe fingers in many pies, just fists in many pies? How would you describe yourself to those watching?
Ooh. I didn't know we were going to start with this really
very
tough
philosophical question.
Who is Ivan?
I mean, in theory, I define myself as someone that does research in artificial intelligence. Okay, so I try to understand really how intelligent system works and how can we emulate, how to build machines that can work as intelligent systems. Yeah.
I like it. But we'll get more into that later. However, where do we always start before our guest, Sam?
With the icebreaker.
You will find Sam is very musical, and it's like a musical. This podcast, he will just break into song.
What songs will I sing today?
I don't know.
Normally have one.
You normally go with "Hit Me with Your Rhythm Stick."
Hit me with your rhythm stick. Hit me. Bit of what's his name? Ian Jory.
I don't know who it is, but you sing it all the time. Yeah, so what we like to do with all our guests, we like to have 3 icebreaker questions. So
okay.
We don't need the icebreaker. I think we'll know each other quite well, but we'll do them anyway.
Yeah, that's fine.
So the first question, the very highbrow these, is what is your favourite sandwich?
My favourite sandwich?
Yeah.
You will be judged.
Heavily.
If it's bad, you will be judged.
Ian Malabar's bottom of the pile, by the way.
Poor sandwich.
Can I say a burger?
Yeah,
usually it's a sandwich.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna oppose a burger.
Yeah, burger.
What we having on the burger?
So what's on you can't just say burger, Ivan. That's too
burger.
What toppings? Are we going cheese?
Obviously with cheese.
Yeah.
No onions.
No onion?
No.
You're downgrading your burger here, lads.
Do we go jalapenos?
That could work, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So
a nice bacon.
Yes, bacon, yeah.
That's my order from Five Guys, that.
Yeah. Jalapenos, cheese.
And bacon.
Yeah. No salad?
If we stick to the important things,
we just stick to the fats and proteins. Okay.
That's what we do in this house.
I guess we can add a bit of,
lettuce.
A leaf or something.
Something nutritional can go on there.
Just one slice, just one lettuce.
No, but
very, very, very thin. Yeah.
Bit of crunch.
I always feel you need the cold. Because you got the hot meat, the toasted buns, the cheese. You need like a cold tomato. Because it breaks the heat. It's like, fresh.
See, I like tomato, but I don't agree with tomato on burger because it just makes the bun soggy.
Yeah.
So, and then I'm like, there's too much sog going on here, man.
True.
I mean, you know, I am the cook at home. And I prepare my own burgers.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Right, talk us through.
From scratch.
Talk us through how to make the perfect burger.
So, I mean, it's very easy. I mean, you add just sea salt, okay, pepper, a lot of pepper. This Worcester sauce.
Worcester sauce.
Yeah. Eggs. Onion.
Add
a little bit of onion.
And that's it.
Is that it? Yeah.
That's
how
it.
How long do you fry in each side?
3 minutes, 3.5 minutes.
Each side.
You doing a medium rare burger?
Yeah. If it would be pinky.
Yeah, that's what
if you want well done, 4 minutes.
It's got to be a bit pink in the middle.
Yeah,
it's got to be a bit
people
pink
who get well done.
But
meats,
the good thing when you prepare that at home is that you can decide the.
Yeah, you have it how you want it. Like,
yeah,
I like it.
Like very, very chunky.
But a burger,
very, very chunky. Yeah.
So
you've got to have a thick burger.
Yeah, you have.
Yeah. I mean, I eat a burger, so the rest is just optional, I guess.
Yeah.
If you're having a burger with a thin bit of meat, it's outrageous.
But then McDonald's and like all Burger Kings, they have thin burgers, don't they?
Can I say something about McDonald's? No.
It's what you want.
So, burger, I'd say it's up there at the top of the list. I wouldn't disagree.
You know what though? I think the question, Ivan's elevated the question there to new heights. People I don't think were thinking in terms of burgers. No, but it classifies as a sandwich.
And you've opened the door there
it's officially a sandwich.
Yeah, it definitely is. I think the biggest rogue one we got was like a melted Philly cheese, wasn't it?
It was so nice though. It sounded so good.
People weren't thinking in terms of burgers, man, but that's just opened the doorway. We'll have paninis next.
We will. You can't beat a panini. But next question. Okay. It's the standard question everyone always asks. Dead or alive, you're having 3 people around for a dinner party. Who you're asking?
Could be part of my family or...
Of course it can, yeah.
Anyone you want.
3 people.
3. That's the number. I mean, people have taken that very liberal. I think we've had 6 on one dinner.
I mean, it would be easy. My wife, 2 kids.
Yeah,
I like that. You know what? I like that, you know, because everyone puts loads of thought into it. Like, ooh, who would I? No, I like it. Very simple.
I asked my mummy the other day, and I was like, "Oh, you know, on the podcast we do 3 dinner guests. Who would you have?" And she said, and when she said that, I was like, it like upset me a bit. She went, "I'd have my mum and dad." Because they're both dead. And I thought, like, everyone always goes for, like, I'd have this celebrity, I'd have this. And she just went to me mum and dad.
I am glad that I only have 2 kids.
Yeah, because you have to leave one out. Or leave Sandra out, one of them.
Yeah, to the oldest one, you've got to hold the fort. We can't leave these on their own. You stay in. Off you go. No, but yeah, because I feel a lot of people that question try and put the personality into it, don't they? And be like,
yeah.
I mean, I'm guilty of it, definitely. But then obviously when you actually think about who you'd ask, you would just ask, like, I'd have me nan.
Yeah, you would love to have a convo with them. Yeah, you had a 90s extravaganza.
Yeah, who did I have? I had Liam Gallagher, Bez from the Happy Mondays. Are you familiar with the Happy Mondays?
No.
When you go home, listen to the best band England ever made.
Probably just because they were high on drugs for 20 years. That's why they were the best band ever.
So Bez from the Happy Mondays wasn't actually really a part of the band, but the band members paid for him to come with him just to dance around because he was his mate.
Okay.
And he just had shakers.
So he went on tour with him, just used to dance and shake maracas and contributed nothing else.
No one could hear the maracas. They weren't mic'd up. He was just on the stage with them. And so, I don't know, he just literally was for visuals, but he became the most famous member. Yeah. Everyone was like, oh, can't wait to see Bez on tonight.
Because it was funny. And yeah, he was my other one, Jesus, because I thought, well,
people have said Jesus, haven't they?
It'd be nice to get to the bottom of that one.
It'd be nice to get to the bottom of that one.
Right. Okay. The final question is, what is the worst job you've ever had?
The worst. Okay, so I could say that it was my first job, actually. So I was an entertainer.
An entertainer?
Yeah, for kids.
Oh, no. Nice.
When I was...
We went 2 different... You went, oh, nice. I went, oh, no.
Yeah, I mean, actually, I never thought I could do that. So that was when I was studying, obviously, my undergrad. I was needing money, so I say, and then I just saw the ad, and I say, oh, I mean, I can do
that.
So what type of stuff did you have to do?
One thing is reading the ad, thinking about that, and the other thing is when you really need to do that. Yes, we are full of kids, different ages, and then it was in the end it was not so bad, I have to say, particularly when I have to entertain older kids, because you could do things with them, so you could play football, you could do more adult things if you like.
Yeah.
But then it was a different business when you have to entertain kids. They were 5-6 years old, and you were just in the sandpit and then with the sun all the time. So it was.
So was you dressing up in that?
I mean, yes. I mean, in most of the cases, it was just an standard, let's say, outfit. But yeah, a few occasions I had to dress up as a sausage.
A sausage?
Yeah.
Like a hot dog?
Yes.
Oh, I love it.
And then I was
But
walking with
did
Dad.
it have a specific name, the hot dog?
Don't
Ivan?
remember. I don't remember now, because there was part of. So there was a company that they were paying for that. But I don't remember if they had a name for that.
I thought you were I thought it was going to be something like just proper, like casually, like
Steve the sausage.
And then, yeah, but in that one, I mean, there was a very sophisticated outfit. It was with a air pump.
Yeah.
It was completely inflated, and I was walking with that. I could see all the kids just running.
It is the sausage.
I ended up on the floor, and then, that was a disaster. But yeah.
It sounds like fun to me.
I was about to say, of all the worst jobs we've had, that is one I would do.
Yeah, I'd do that.
Yeah, I mean, it's just
I
I guess it was something that I never imagined. That
I mean,
I could do
technically, I did do this for you.
You did,
When
yeah.
I dressed up as a walrus. Oh, you've not seen this. So this will have been announced, won't it? That the song's coming out when this comes out next week.
Doesn't matter anyway.
Well, even if it's not right. So he's in a band, Honey Motel. Big things coming soon. Listen to them. So basically, they were filming a music video, and it's a bit mental. So he texted me and he went, "Do you mind helping me? We need an extra for a music video." And I went, "Yeah, go ahead. I'll come up. Like, I'll do anything, mate. It's funny." And he shows up and he goes, dead sheepish, like he goes, "Ryan, mate, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry." He went, "You're gonna have to dress up as a walrus." And I went, what do you mean?
let me show him the photo.
I went, "What do you mean?" He went, "Yeah, you're gonna have to dress up as a walrus." And I turned around and it was just this inflatable walrus costume.
Brian regrets the day he become mates with me.
Oh my god, it was so funny.
Let me try and get it.
And then they had me
here.
running round this furniture shop chasing one of the guys for the video, but you couldn't run in it because the legs were like tied dead low.
Yeah.
So I was like waddling round this furniture shop.
And it was hot as fuck every time he unzipped it.
I was
His head was just covered in sweat.
Did it all for a few slices of Domino's.
But Ryan can sympathise. He's recently done it and didn't get paid. He just turned up as a friend.
It's funny though. It's funny waddling around in a suit. So we'll move on now to yourself and a bit of backstory. So we're taking it back a bit. So as the astute may be aware, when this podcast started, I wasn't actually speaking English. Some people may not have noticed.
You wasn't speaking English?
Did you not know?
No.
No, I was speaking Spanish, and that's because you're originally from Colombia, correct?
Yes, I am.
So I suppose then the first where we start is, what was it like growing up or school, like going to school in Colombia type thing, like, and how does that compare to? So obviously you say you've got kids, how like their experiences over here different, very similar?
I mean, there are a lot of differences. So one of them is that, for instance, here, so most of the schools are public. Okay, so I pay by the government, which is a really, really good thing. In Colombia, you have public schools, but they are not quite good in general.
Oh, right.
So a lot of people, they go for private schools. So for instance, I studied in a private school, but it doesn't mean that I was rich. So I was actually quite poor.
So with the private schools, like, affordable?
So I mean,
relatively.
It takes a big chunk of your budget.
Yeah.
Yes. So it's just that, I mean, if there is no options, so this is what you need to do, and
Well, of
that's
course,
it.
yeah.
So I mean, we had to. I mean, my family had to make a lot of effort for me to, to go to the school, to private school. Yeah. I would say that's the massive difference. So this is something that here we just, have assumed that is for granted that you have the.
And people will actively move to different areas to go to
get
different
into a
schools
school,
and stuff. Yeah.
But there is, I mean, the option is how much money are you going to pay for them? Okay.
That's mad. That.
So, yes, I mean I would say that's one of the big things. I mean, there are other things, but it's difficult to me to understand if this really because of differences between countries or age, because as you can probably infer, I went to a school.
You're only 21, aren't you, man?
22.
You're too good looking to be too old, Ivan.
Don't undersell me. 23.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, we have more or less a similar structure in the sense that we have primary school, secondary school, these kind of things. Yeah.
So through school, then, was STEM always something you were interested in, or did that come later on?
There was
STEM, so mathematics, computing, and stuff. Was that always an interest, or did that come later on?
I would say this is something that from the beginning. Yeah, I mean, as far as I have memory, I was always interested in STEM. Yeah,
from even really young.
I would say yes. I mean,
or was there an age where you?
I mean, I remember when I was still in primary school. Having this conversation with my mom. She asking me about what did I wanted to become when I was an adult and all of that. I remember saying that I wanted to be a psychologist.
Yeah.
So and then my mom's response. I mean, this is the kind of things that probably parents they were allowed to say many years ago, but not now.
Yeah.
But she said, "Oh no, this is not a profession for males."
Oh, yeah, it's like a female profession.
Yeah, it is mad, isn't it?
Yes.
But that's true, though. There was a lot more female shrinks, if you like, that's what you want to call them.
I guess that, one of the things I always wanted to study was the brain, how things, where a conscious was. Probably I didn't have this kind of question when I was in primary school.
But you were lingering somewhere.
So there was this kind of things. I wanted to be an astronomer. And then I could see my mom's face again, that disappointing face. Say, oh no, here we go again. So
here we go again.
But yes, I always was around,
science.
Yeah, science, engineering, things like that. Yeah.
So when you went to obviously undergrad, you studied in Colombia.
Yeah.
Is it Bogota?
In Bogota, yeah.
So what was it you studied there? Was computer science? Was that the name for it, or slightly different?
No, I studied mechanical engineering.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
And that's another story. Because, while I was in let's say, high school, I was this guy that was all the time in the computer lab. So I actually had an alias that was Cursor. So people used to call me, this is Cursor. That's a cursor in the computer. And then I was completely, 100% sure that I was going to study computer science.
All right.
But then one thing is what I said, and the other thing was about what my family thought about that. Okay. And then that's the other thing. In Colombia you have public universities and private universities as well.
Oh, really? Yeah.
And then, and I wanted to leave my city. I am originally from Cartagena.
Is that smaller?
A sort of. It's 1 million.
Oh, so small,
big, yeah. But in terms of Colombia, it's like a small city.
Smaller city.
Yeah. Because most of the things are concentrated around Bogota, Medellin, this kind of things. Anyway, so then, but then my family, they say, oh no, if you're going to study computer science, you're going to be always the guy that is repairing computers. This is 90s.
Yeah, okay? So the understanding wasn't there, was the topic.
And then, I have, it's fair to say that part of this was like that, actually. So people, in the 90s, someone that studied computer science was either could do actual computer science or repairing computers or doing a lot of other stuff that were more technical stuff. So then I wanted to go to Bogota. So they say, okay, if you want to go to Bogota, you need to study something else. And then I was persuaded somehow to study mechanical engineering. I guess that, I mean, it's something that I also like because I like physics and all of that. And I mean, I did mechanical engineering, so I enjoyed that. I mean, there were obviously things, ups and downs and all of that, but this was not something like, okay, you have to study.
You felt not something where you felt forced.
Exactly. That was fine. But,
So what was it like studying in Bogota? And like, how does it compare? Obviously, it's a similar question to before. Like, how does it compare university-wise in Colombia to obviously universities
here
over this side of the pond?
I mean, I think so. That depends on how you see if it is what is better or not. But in general, there they tend to be the courses. They tend to be more comprehensive, which not necessarily is a good thing. Okay, so I see the point here. For instance, that when you have a course that is just 3 years, for instance, because you are very quickly out there ready for a job.
Apply the skills.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then if you want to study more, you can do a master and so on and so on. So in Colombia, again, that was when I studied there, so things have changed, obviously, but you study 5 years, okay?
Is that undergraduate 5 years?
Undergrad, yes.
Okay,
so
no,
5
that's a
years.
long
That is a long
So
time.
then it's because it's that idea that when you complete your study, you need to be ready for the job. So here probably it's like, okay, you have a general idea of the of the discipline,
You get
and
molded
then you
by
get
the
more.
company.
Yes, when you are in the company. So again, I guess that there are pros and cons depending on how you see that. But in my case, I now looking backwards, I would say that it was a bit of a waste of time.
Bit too long.
Yeah, too long. Now, on the other side of this is that I had the opportunity to study a lot of mathematics, for instance, even that there was mechanical engineering. So there was a lot of mathematics, a lot of physics, even relativity, quantum mechanics. I studied all this kind of stuff. Even that, I mean, probably we are not going to use that to design the machine, but
it was interesting
to
you.
There was. I enjoyed these kind of things. But this, I mean, it's fair to say that this is in the university where I studied. At least in size, it's the largest university in Colombia. So there are other universities that they have different ways to do things. But in general, it's 5 years. Yeah.
And what was? Because I'm interested. Then, who was the researcher we had on who studied in Mexico?
Oh, Professor Andy Biggin. I don't think he studied. He worked over there.
He worked in Mexico, and he said I know Mexico's a long way away from Colombia, but he said the academics in Mexico were treated like royalty.
Like very, very well paid. Like it was quite a decadent profession.
Right, that's not Colombia.
No. Because he was saying they had servants and they had
massive houses and stuff like that.
Like,
that's what he was saying.
Every academic had a butler.
Yeah, I wish. I mean, if probably that was the situation in Colombia, I wouldn't be here. But yeah, no.
How much is the next flight to Mexico?
Yeah.
So did you carry on further education in Colombia? So did you do a master's or did you go
the master
straight to PhD?
in Spain?
So what made you? Was it simply for the more money, different standard of living? What was it that made you jump to Spain, for example, instead of staying?
So I wanted to. I don't remember when I was this plan to
move
to do a PhD.
Oh right.
So
okay.
I always wanted to do a master, and then perhaps to end up in a big, large company. And then originally, because in Colombia we tend to see, as the target is America.
Yeah.
Now a bit of Europe, but traditionally it was always the States.
Is that just generally due to geography because it's closer essentially?
Yeah, maybe, and the influence.
Of course, yeah.
And then so you get familiar with, all the states, universities there, so all of that. So, and then you see friends in my university, they were, going there doing masters. And then I wanted to do the same. But then the way the most accessible way was to get a loan with the government. And then, getting a loan to go to the States to do a master, even that is only 2 years, this is like a mortgage, okay?
Jeez.
That you need to pay.
Isn't it something like 30-40 grand a year to study in the US or something?
Yeah, maybe, yeah. And then, so it's a lot of money. So, and then one of my, friends, he did that, and then I could say that then, when he came back, so they had such amount of money that he needed to pay over the 5-6 years.
And he went to the States.
Yeah. And then I said, okay, I'm not ready to do that.
Yeah.
So then I started in another university as a lecturer. So that was my first academic position. And the idea was, they had a sort of an informal program. The idea was that, okay, we can take you without any, master or anything like that. And then we can pay for you to go.
Is this in Spain?
No, that was in Colombia.
Is it still in Colombia?
Yeah.
Still in Colombia.
To go abroad to study, we can pay for that,
sick.
and then back. And then to me, that sounds really like a really good option. But then one thing is when you're promised things, and then the other thing is when you really to see things to happen. So, So I started to look for universities in America first. But then that university in Colombia was never happy with the costs.
So just extortionate.
Yeah, so then I looked for university here in the UK. It was also expensive. Australia, Canada, okay. And then at some point I just came to the conclusion that if I wanted to do this, it should be, by myself. So without the support of that university, so I just look at my savings and then the things I could sell. I was living alone that time.
So how old are you here, Ivan?
So
what's the age?
At that time I was like 28 already.
28. Yeah. So did you work then before you went? Because university's 5 years.
Yeah, so I finished university there. I completed my degree when I was 23.
23, yeah.
I tell you what, I couldn't think that's so bold that I couldn't think now, because obviously we're about the same age when you essentially sold up shop and went to Spain. I couldn't think now of just going, right, F&I, I'm going to go off to somewhere else.
But it was pretty much like that. So at some point I say, okay, if I want to do this, it needs to be now or never. Okay, so then I applied for things. I contacted then universities in Spain, and then I realized, okay, I can afford this. Okay, obviously I needed still a studentship at some point.
Yeah, you needed some type of
and then this is what I did. So then I say, okay, because it's my choice, then it's my time now to decide entirely what I want to do. So because I remember at the beginning I was like, okay, I'm a mechanical engineer, so I try to find something that
exactly
can match. I said no. What I wanted to do is to study artificial intelligence. This is what I was actually doing in Colombia.
What your mum told you not to do all those years ago?
No, that question was not. Yes, there was not on the table again. So I said no. I just said to my family, look,
this is what I want.
Yeah, this is what I want. And then I went to Spain. Then I did the master in artificial intelligence, and then I carried on with the PhD.
So when you went over to do the masters, was like a PhD always on the cards, or did you decide when you were
No,
there?
I already wanted everything.
Yeah, so when you were like, right, I'm getting it.
Everything.
And whereabouts in Spain did you land?
Barcelona.
It's not a bad place to land.
I tell you what, everyone tells me it's amazing.
The nicest city.
And I've still never been, because I want to go to this major off topic. I want to go to the F1 race there. It's in Catalonia. The Circuit de Catalunya?
Yeah.
You get a bus from the city centre.
So
that might be my excuse for going.
Yeah, funny enough, I never managed to go to the circuit there, because it's always in. I don't know now, but typically it's in May.
Yeah.
And May is the peak of the high fever season in
you get mad hay fever, don't you?
And particularly in that area, So the peak is.
So you basically die if you went to watch the F1.
No. Yes, I suffer from hay fever a lot.
Yeah.
I was like, I can't. So it was like,
Can't
It's
go.
such a shame, that, isn't
The nice thing I always find fascinating with Barcelona, it's such a nice city, but it has an amazing beach right in the city. It's not like you've got to go out of the city. It's the city, and then you cross the road, and the beach is right, and it's one of the best beaches.
I actually can tell you that in my city, Cartagena, is like that.
Oh,
so
is it the same?
I was used to that. So that like, okay, well, what do you want to do today? Oh, let's go to the beach.
That's so sick.
And that's it. Because I mean, we have this permanent summer, so it's
hot all the time.
Yeah, the whole year round. So for Christmas, for instance, you go to the beach.
Have a barbecue on the beach.
New Year, you go to the beach, and so on. Yeah.
That's such a life.
It's such a different culture, isn't it? Like,
yeah. So then when I moved to Bogota, I was like craving for the beach. So I was like, where is the beach?
Where is the beach?
Yeah, because I mean, Bogota is in the middle of the mountains.
And now you've ended up living in Cheshire. Not many beaches around here.
I mean,
if there is the fucking freezing.
you have the River Mersey.
Got the beaches on there. Yeah. So
go for a dip in that, you'll die.
You will die. Yeah, there's all sorts floating around in there. So how long did you stay in Barcelona then before?
I mean, it was the whole thing. So master, PhD. So there was like 4 years. Then I did a postdoc, like year or so. Yeah.
It's not too long, the postdoc.
Yeah, because the original was. So that postdoc, yes, was for a research project they had. And then, so the research project was for 2 years, but then, my original contract was probably for 2 years, I don't remember now. But then I applied for the Marie Curie Fellowship to come to the UK. And then basically I just decided to leave the postdoc to take
that fellowship.
Yeah.
See, because I say me and Sam, we're not from, like, we don't really come from an academic background. We don't know much about it. What's the difference between like a fellowship and a postdoc? For those who don't know,
right? So in principle, a fellowship could be a postdoc. Okay, it's just that we tend to say that first, the postdoc is something that you are hired to do something.
Right.
So a postdoctoral job. So it's something that you need to have the PhD first, and then. So if you are hired to do that, so then in principle the project is already a project with objectives and all of that, and then so you say, okay, I can do this. Okay, obviously you need to go for interview and all of that, and you're hired to do that. Okay. Now a fellowship is something in principle that you say, okay, I would like to do this. Okay, it's your decision. And then you apply for funds. So you go for funding, different funders, okay? And then they typically have calls for that. And then you say, look, this is my research program. I want to do this for the next 2 years, 3 years, whatever, okay? And then you have typically the support from, obviously, a university where you're going to do that. But you come with your money, your research program. And all
so
that.
you get kind of external funding, and it's your project that you see from the start to finish. So it's kind of more like a PhD, but
you have
different.
In the way I see the PhD is training. Okay. Mm-hmm. So in principle, if you fail in terms of the project and the things you are doing, for instance, is a failure in terms of training. So, but not. We shouldn't rely the development of a project on a PhD, for instance. It's different with a postdoc. In a postdoc, in principle, you already have the training.
Well, you're considered, you know what you're doing. You're trained. You're an expert. You should be able to deliver as required.
Yeah, you already have the training for that.
Yeah.
I like
so it's more or less this thing. So in principle, I mean, even that PhD, yes, obviously it's research, but it's also another. I mean, it's a degree, so it's education. You're being trained to become
to be a researcher.
And a postdoc is more. There's a project to be done. You apply for it. A fellowship is more. You come with funding and an idea or a project.
Yeah, you design your project. So, for instance, for the Marie Curie Fellowship that is with the European Union. So you say, okay, I want to do this. So I remember, I spending time, preparing the whole proposal, all the things, okay. And then, you submit that, it's reviewed by, reviewers in Europe, and then you get the funds.
They decide if it's your project's worth funding. Then, so what was your project then, your Marie Curie project?
Well, that project was about the brain. So the idea was to...
Mad how it's all circular, like you wanted to do...
Yeah, I always...
you like the brain.
Yeah.
I am still, my collaborations are around that, around astrophysics, around, cardiovascular research. But so that project in particular, so the idea was to try to identify sources in the brain of, to try to... model cognitive processes, basically. Okay, so then there are a few assumptions there. So one of them is not only that when you are thinking about something or you are doing something, so it's not just only saying, okay, there is activity in this part of the brain, but there is activity also in this part and this part. I don't know, but then they are interlinked. So in the end, you get a graph.
Like, okay. Yeah, I've seen that when they'll get someone to touch something and see which part of the brain is firing.
Exactly. So then the idea was that using EEGs, so electroencephalography. Okay, so then with that you have information at the surface of the scalp, basically. So it's trying to predict what are the sources of the activity in the brain. Okay, based on that. So it's actually an ill-posed problem. So if you write the equation for that, you will get an infinite number of solutions for that. So you need to restrict it, to constrain the problem in different ways. So then one of the, there are obvious constraints, like for instance, the shape of the brain is limited. So it's these kind of things. Or also things like this is not connected with this, but is connected with this. So this is the kind of constraint you have. And how I ended up doing that, because my PhD was on Bayesian modeling. Yeah. Okay. So, and then the idea was to model all these kinds of constraints using basically
probabilities,
prior knowledge and all of that. And these are the dynamical systems and all that. So I think that project is somehow brought back things even from mechanical engineering, because in mechanical engineering you learn a lot of things with dynamical systems.
With systems, yeah.
It's weird, isn't it? How you learn things years ago and then later on down the line it'll come up, even though you would not expect it.
It always happens to me, but I've always absolutely forgot everything to do with it. And you just go, I know I've done this, but I haven't got a clue how it works.
I think one of the aspects, I know there was, if you like, a sort of an accident in my life that I had to touch different fields, but actually that have been beneficial somehow, because then you see things in other areas that you can bring to. So it's this translational aspect that works a lot. Yeah,
that's what I mean. Like a lot of the stuff you see, like for example, I'm working with GTM, it's a generative topographic clustering technique, and like the way they optimize it is a thing that they've pulled from years ago, like expectation maximization algorithm.
So like an older thing.
But so because this is in this way, we can use this thing from a different kind of bit of maths to optimize
this new thing, and
that's how it's put together. And it's weird. So it's like a lot of the important discoveries come from that thinking of the problem in a different way other than how you would expect it to be.
You see it a lot, like even pulling it. So that sounds like it's been pulled from the same field from the past. But there's even like a theory in medicine, and then they pull it into building a mathematical model and it works there.
Well, that's essentially how self-organising maps was built. That's right, isn't it? So they were trying to model how the brain thinks. So they were trying to recreate how the brain thinks. So that's how the model of self-organising maps was built.
And now that's used for all sorts.
Yeah.
Oh, man. See, that's what I mean. Like, it's
crazy,
weird,
yeah.
though. Who's the person who goes like, hold on a minute? You know what I mean?
I think, so to be a knob, the only reason I know this, I've been reading it, I think it was Conan who was
The
self-organising.
Barbarian?
Yeah. Chiseling it into stone. Well, I'm fucking onto something here.
No way Arnold Schwarzenegger did that.
Chisel it into stone, you'll never believe this.
Jeez, man.
But yeah, so,
actually on that, because I am still quite fan of self-organizing systems. So for instance, I'm not the only one thinking that, but the whole planet is a self-organizing system. So, and this, you can see that as a life thing, that because we are part of that, we are not completely conscious about the whole thing.
So remind me what a self-organising map is. I haven't used them for years.
it's a clustering technique that...
So why is it different from like a traditional clustering technique? What's unique about it? Tell me what's the unique thing about it?
The idea is that with that, so you have... so you can extract knowledge that the different entities that are part of the system are not aware of that. Okay, so for instance, that you have, let's say for instance ants.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you see the ants, the only thing they know probably is just they transfer this chemical thing between ants. But they are not aware of the whole thing.
Of the whole,
exactly. So, but then you can see that for instance, they form, long
lines
and things like that. And they manage to, in the end, to solve problems.
Without sort of communicating.
Yeah, and then very basic things, okay? So this kind of communication. They manage to solve problems that are far more sophisticated than the individual brains can do. So then, for instance, in a self-organizing system, the idea is that we are a self-organizing system. So we are formed by cells, and every individual cell, they know how to do a specific thing, for instance. Mm-hmm. But they are not aware that there is a brain, that there is, a heart, kind of things. Shit. But they organize in a way that is beneficial for the whole system. So then the cells in the end, they live probably longer because of that, or these kind of things. Okay.
Oh yeah, and then when you're saying there, the world is exactly that, isn't it? Yeah. Like there's people who work in areas of like, I don't know, accountants, and you have absolutely nothing to do with doctors, but
it's all
lean against each other in a way which is beneficial, and that's weird, that, isn't it?
So at the time when I was completing my master, I was deciding with my supervisor the topic of my PhD. So I remember I said, okay, let's just be frank and say what you want to do for PhD. And I say, look, I really I would like that, for instance, based on books that we read, for instance, Isaac Asimov, for instance, I don't know if you know. So that you can have, for instance, there is a book that I don't remember now the title, in which let's say the president or the prime minister or the government were actually robots. Okay, they were in control of things, and then the people. Okay, and then I found that very interesting. That idea sounded scary. Okay, but then instead of having a robot, I was considering, okay, so why do we need, for instance, a prime minister, or why do we need? So maybe if we had a way of self-organization. Okay, so then we can get rid of these kind of things. It's something that is beneficial for everybody. Okay. So then I say, okay, maybe that's too ambitious for a PhD.
To revolutionize the planet.
So
what do you want to do for your PhD, man? Well, hear me out. That's what I want to
do. So then I said to my former supervisor now, so I said, look, what about if we try to implement that in a company? So we have the infrastructure for that. We have intranet, okay? So there's a way of communicating the different PCs and whatever you have in a company.
Yeah.
Okay. And then to me, the rules are very basic. So the rules are, you need to make profit. Okay. You need, to obey all the regulations. You need to, whatever. Okay. And then do whatever is needed in order to do that. I could see the face of my former supervisor saying, like, okay, now what is what you really want for a PhD? So, I mean, I thought that could have been a good idea. I still think that this is something that is going to happen sooner or later. But
just the self-organization of people.
Yeah,
rather than
so you get rid of CEOs, you get rid of these things. So
I mean, a lot of time you do look at it. Like a lot of the people with the C in front of the job title.
So many CFO, CEO,
CTO, and then they're just a waste of pounds, man.
Well, but doesn't even an ant colony even have a queen ant though? Doesn't it have a leader? There is a leader.
They just produce eggs,
Yeah, but for example, in like you could say the same with bees, like they sort of self-organize, but like there's the queen, and if the queen dies,
but they protect the queen because the queen is the one that is producing eggs. Okay, you have eggs.
So isn't that sort of like the hypothetical CEO? They all look after the CEO because he's got the money.
So assuming that she's not coordinating the whole thing. So she's not saying, okay, you guys go there and protect
so she's just giving birth, and then the bees are organising to protect the eggs.
But you could say the same that neither is a CEO. They just have the money, which are the hypothetical eggs. Everyone does what they do, and they protect the CEO because they've got money.
Yeah, but the CEO is actually, even direction things. Yeah.
But if you do something that the CEO doesn't like, you get sacked. Whereas a worker bee will naturally just do what it does. Whereas if you go into work and then just kind of like do your own thing, a CEO will just go, CEO will just go, what are you doing there, mate?
But anyway, I mean, probably, obviously, this. I'm not saying that is a brilliant idea. I mean,
I think it is a good idea. I think it is good.
And it's if nothing else, it's a very interesting point to linger on and try and research, because it would imagine a business that ran on nothing but self-organisation of people. That'd be quite weird.
I think,
and it'd be.
But then I sort of think it does. Like how important. Like CEOs probably don't do much anyway. They are just like the people that started it.
I would say
most of the work that comes from companies does come from the people.
You've not worked where I've worked.
So they do a lot, or they control a lot.
It's hard. Like you don't get to do what you think would be best because they have a direction. So like I could think of something and be like, right, I think this is the most optimal
but you
approach.
Get stopped, basically.
But then basically it's right, that's a wasted resource because the direction of the higher management is this. Even though you may not agree with the direction, but then you can't challenge that because it's like...
I mean, one example, for instance, is Microsoft, okay? So you see Microsoft, I mean, obviously first was Bill Gates, but then after that, I think was Steve Ballmer, and then the direction that Microsoft was taking was trying to produce smartphones, things like that.
Do you remember the Windows Phone?
Yeah, and they were not doing great with that. And then at some point, the next CEO that I don't remember his name now, he said, "Well, actually, we don't do this. We don't do devices. We don't do hardware. Okay, our job is doing software. Let's just move back to the origin, let's say." And then then Microsoft started to do, let's say, well again. So I remember there was a point that people was actually considering to move to different operating systems. So people started to play again. I mean, with Linux, for instance.
Yeah.
And that was perhaps the time the history of Linux that perhaps was very close to actually be a challenge. Yeah, at least to be a challenge. Yeah.
I was about to say the Linux community now has come on so far. It's massive because I've recently swapped my old laptop over to I think is it Mint, the distro Mint. So I've just jumped over to that, and it's like you can't get Microsoft Office unless you log in online because it's a Windows only.
Yeah.
However, the user experience is like. So I remember I had a Linux laptop when I was a kid, and it was shite. It was awful. It couldn't do anything. The user experience was awful. But like when I set my laptop up with this, I was like, wow, this is actually like a very functional and usable experience. So it's come on so much. I could see it.
I mean, there've been things in I mean, obviously these big companies, they try to control the market somehow. So I remember probably my first computer. So then I was really happy with that. So at that time I used to build computers and things like that. So then I bought my computer in parts back home, installed Linux. That time we had Red Hat, that now is you need to pay for that, but in the past was free. I installed everything, and then I didn't have internet.
You didn't have it as a feature.
Because no, it's just the at that time was with the modems. So and then I had was Win. It was called Win modem. So it was something that could just work with Windows. So they were controlling the market. So
so you just had no option.
There was no option. So it was so that modem was part of the board. Okay. So apparently you say, okay, you buy the board, is with the modem already. But it's a Win modem. Yes. It was called like that, Win modem. So it was just for Windows. So if you wanted to have internet with Linux, you needed to buy a separate modem. Okay.
It's just ripping off.
And it's always like that. I mean,
I tell you what's going to make Linux come on a lot, though. I know this is a very Linux heavy chat.
Calling himself Windows.
No, are you onto the Steam Deck?
Nah.
So you know Steam.
Yeah.
Are you familiar with Steam? The thing basically what you get all your games through. So they made a handheld PC, but you can play games on.
Yeah, I've seen it.
But they use SteamOS, but SteamOS is based on Linux. So now loads of game developers and stuff are putting lots of effort into developing for Linux. So a lot of software is coming from it, and especially a lot of other software and behind the scenes, because Steam have invested so heavily. So you've seen quite a few jumps recently because of that.
Okay.
But before we move off Linux,
sorry. Go on.
Oh no.
No, sorry. When you were talking, I'm thinking about self-organising maps now. When you zoom out, isn't it? I don't know if this is true. If you zoom out on the planet, it's one big self-organising map. But the more granular you get, it starts to not become a self-organising map, doesn't it? Like you start to get a head of a little company, but then if you zoom out to 20 companies, it looks like it's organising itself.
Yeah.
Is that how I don't know.
Yeah.
My head's battered a bit here.
In the end, I guess there are some general rules that we follow as humans.
The one that stressed me out the most is driving. Because when you think about it, the fundamental how society we all follow simple rules, but then a lot gets done.
Yeah.
So if you consider driving right, the main rules of driving, don't cross the white line or you die.
Yeah.
Give way to right at a roundabout. In the UK, it's because we drive on the left hand side.
Yeah.
And we give way and stop at lights. They're the basically 4-5 simple rules we follow, and it's amazing that only a small amount of people in the UK die in road crashes every year because we all kind of self-organise and be like, right, we'll just follow these rules and drive. And there's no complex rules. There's no
don't drive on this side.
After every third car you must give way to something or other.
Yeah.
It's just very simple rules and we all self-organise from that.
Sorry, I was just thinking then, the reason why ants and bees and other creatures would be better prepared for self-organising ways of living would be because they don't have ego. And they don't have narcissism and all these emotions which are attached to the human biology. I think even if we tried to self-organise, you'd always get one individual going, no, I am in control here, and standing up. And then it ruins the balance of there's no leader because there's always someone who goes, I'm in charge.
But what's mad
but if they don't get that in ants.
Is that type of kind of mathematics and stuff is massively applied in when they plan for emergency exits.
Yeah.
And how to funnel people out.
Yeah.
So it's the mass. So when you get enough people, we all kind of think the same as ants do. So that you can model quite accurately how to safely get people out of stadiums and stuff. So for example, say if you've got a door here, you put a pillar in front of the door.
And we all go around it.
Because then what that does is everyone will equally go around it and it stops a crush at the door.
But you know what I mean, though?
No, I know what you mean.
You can't model narcissism.
Yeah.
So a mathematical model would say, oh yeah, we should all be able to self-organise, but you're always going to have someone going, I'm in charge here, everyone follow me. If you don't follow me, I'll kill you.
It's
You
one
know
of
what
them,
I mean?
There's a difference between theory and...
Yeah. But I really like that idea, Ivan. You've got me thinking, you know.
There are a lot of risks with that. So obviously, if someone gets control of the whole system, I mean, there are a lot of things.
No, but you've got me thinking.
System, isn't it, I suppose?
Yeah, so...
I might be post off. Post off.
Well, yeah, I was going to say, before we move on, a funny story about modems. So when we were all kids, you know, like playing COD when we all got into it, we had one mate who was the last to come off modem internet. So every time he was doing well in COD and he was on like a 5-kill streak, we'd ring his house phone. Or like say if we were playing FIFA and he was giving someone shit because he was winning, they'd just ring up his house phone. And then he'd come back on about 10 minutes later and he'd go, lads, just stop ringing me, Dad's going to batter me.
I used to have a mate the same. He'd be literally mid-game and then he'd just go like, you see his name like, has left the game.
Yeah.
He'd be like, what happens? Oh, my nan rang. And he'd be on the phone to his nan.
I mean, but I don't know if that happened here, but probably, but for a short period of time, people started to have 2 landlines.
So one for the modem, one for the phone.
Yeah.
Wow.
I don't know if I knew anyone, but it makes sense, obviously.
We used to have, I mean, there was, I don't know, in the span of 4 or 5 years, and then obviously everybody started to have cable. Or
Makes sense.
Nice.
But yes, so now, moving on from that, you did your Marie Curie research, moved you over to the UK, and you've been at John Moores for 5 years? 6 years? So you start 2018, because you started as we were leaving undergrad.
Did he?
Yeah, and the only reason I remember that, this is mad, I don't remember anything yet, but I remember mad things. You did a talk up here for the...
Yes, in this place.
In this very space.
Yeah.
There was a projector over there.
Yeah, I remember that.
Ian Jarmo, he was on.
Yeah, he organized that.
And he came up, so that's where I remember you were.
Did you attend that?
I attended.
I thought Ivan was there for the whole of my degree.
Where were you? Well, you would have been for your second year.
Yeah, maybe I just...
So I joined John Moores in 2018, so in March 2018. So I remember that my former line manager, he's now retired, he said, oh yes, I need you from, that day you can start teaching and all of that. And I said, I mean, I cannot even start teaching the same day I joined the university. I don't even have, an IT account. And I said, oh yeah, you can borrow mine, but you can start from the same. I say, okay, yeah, that's, promising.
Just sit there, brilliant, where I showed up to.
Good study, yeah.
But yeah, so since joining John Moores, you've been very involved with lots of different research projects. So what would you say is, so 2 questions, we'll start with one, then we'll go on to the other. So what is would you say the most impactful or important or fun, if anything, piece of research you've been involved in at John Moores? And then moving on from that, like, what are you involved in at the minute? Like, what kind of things are you working on?
Okay, so the most impactful, I would say it's being in drug discovery. So this is something I somehow, carried on from my previous post with University of Manchester. Because, yes, independently of all the things you can do with drug discovery, you know that when you are working on that topic, you know that eventually a few of those chemical compounds you're working with might become an actual drug, and then you can potentially, cure something, save lives and things like that. But it's just to me all the exciting about that. And don't get me wrong, obviously there is this impact and all that. Is the aspect that you have a lot of data, okay, and data with all the issues. So data that you have problems with how to represent the chemical compounds, okay. So what is the best way to represent the chemical compounds? You have problems with that. So you have a data set, could be like, an essay. Okay?
Yeah.
So then you have different data set, quite small, but they are related somehow.
Yeah.
Okay, because they are, attacking the same protein, for instance, in the body, or. And then that opens the door for a lot of things you can do with machine learning. Okay, so all the things like transfer learning, multitask learning, so issues with learning data representation, for instance, this kind of. So there is a lot of things you can do there. So then I would say that that the peak of all this work happened while I was here in John Moores. That we published that in PNAS. That you always say all the letters, no?
In the acronym.
Penis, yeah.
Penis?
The penis journal.
PN. What journal's that?
PNAS. If you say it, the penis journal.
The penis.
So,
where you published penis.
Yeah, so
Excuse me.
Yeah, so there is always a lot of jokes with that. But anyway, so the PNAS is one of the journals with very high reputation. And then we published the whole thing with, we call that transformational machine learning. The idea was, how to process when you have multiple data sets, many of them, that they do things, but they are similar somehow, but you cannot put them together in one data set. And how you deal with all of this, okay? So I like that because then it's somehow, this is how we are. So we, in the way we have envisioned machine learning, for instance, is the typical thing is that you have a task or you have a problem, okay? And then you collect data. So you have a data set, and then based on the data set, you learn a model, okay? So,
but in the real world, as you say, we get data from.
But then exactly. So then the problem is that in the real, this is not like that. So for instance, when the typical example is that if you wanted to learn how to dance, for instance, you don't start from scratch. You already know how to move your legs. You
collected stuff
over. You know how
yeah.
to walk. You need this kind of thing. So you transfer that learning that you already have with walking and all of that into the aspect of learning how to dance. But in machine learning, we
start from scratch.
Just treat every single problem as something completely independent. Okay. This is not like that anymore. So there is a lot of work on that. So,
well, isn't a lot of the work being done now, or it's just advancing already published, like architectures, like and then training it to.
Yeah, exactly. So
focus on
exactly. Yeah. Now it's becoming finally the norm. So working with transfer learning. So obviously there is a lot of things to say on that, and generative models and all of that. A lot of them are pre-trained models that then you can tune for your particular task. So this is a form of transfer learning. Okay, so yeah, so then going back to the aspect of that piece of research that I felt so proud of that was with that transformational machine learning, because it's a full branch in machine learning that.
And had that not been done before in drug discovery?
No. And it could be applied to any domain. Yeah. So it's just we applied to that in drug discovery.
Because that was the application.
So potentially you can do that. For instance, one of the problems, for instance, we have in healthcare, is always a problem is that the data is specific to the center. Okay.
Yeah.
And it could be the center, could be if you think in the structure of NHS here in the UK, so it could be the hospital, but it could be the commission, it could be the region. So there are many things that so for instance, Wirral, we always say about the Wirral that the Wirral is like a small UK, so you have different things there. It's completely different from Cheshire, for instance.
Right, wow.
So then with this kind of transformational machine learning, in theory, you could learn models for a specific center and then seeing ways of combining all of this into this kind
like
of...
a national model.
Yeah. But they are specific to the center.
So you take the results, essentially, or the learnings from all the regions, put it into one national model that can then be...
Yeah, but because the other aspect is to put everything together, that this is what we typically say in statistics, okay, to improve generalization. But generalization is a trap, actually, because in  yes, your model will do well, okay, but then cases that are less representative, they don't do well in the model.
Yeah, so say, for example, say if you had a model very specific to Cheshire, where there was a very specific but small group of people that the model was able to say, it may look like overfitting, but it was just fitting to this smaller group, wouldn't be picked up on the national level because the generalizability had been increased.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's the
Never thought of it
that's the issue. So if you think, because this is always this is the big thing. We say, oh yes, we need to generalize well. So the model is not generalizing well, and so
it's
on.
contextual essentially.
But exactly. So depending on what you're doing. So for instance, if you are seeing things at the level of population or at the level of less granular things. So for instance, you're saying, okay, what is the trend in, for instance, alcohol consumption, for instance, in Cheshire. Okay?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's you're not interested in the level of individuals. So it's just trends. So that in that sense, generalization works very well. But when you are interested in specific cases, okay, so then it's problematic because
it's lost. Basically,
yeah, it's lost on that. So this is the kind of things that we need to be careful, and that actually is the aspect that has taken me to the next thing. So the second part of your question that was, okay, what are the things that we are now? So we are pretty much into the aspect of personalization, okay, and then in that so how you achieve personalization. So a model that can predict. So yes, when you have a model and you say you put your data in the model, and the model will predict something. But if it is a general model, so yes, it will say what is the risk, for instance, for you developing a particular medical condition in 5 years.
Yeah.
Yes, but this is
based on the population.
Yeah, it says it will be a stratified risk prediction. Okay. Yes, because you are tall or because you are
where you live,
age,
where you're from, income.
Then you are at risk of this. But you want but this is the stratum that you belong. But you want to know you specifically what is going to happen to you. Okay.
Yeah.
So then we are working hard on that. So we recently were awarded 2 European projects. There is one of them that we are coordinators, okay, on that project. So it's a target. And the idea with that project is that we are developing digital twins. So basically, this is a concept that is being in manufacturing and mechanical engineering and all of that for many years. The idea is, okay, if you want to build a machine, so let's build that machine in the computer. You test all the things with the machine in the computer, all the forces, everything. And then you test many things. You see, okay, it's going to work. Okay, now let's build that. Okay, so that makes a lot of sense. So then why we cannot do that the same with humans, or with patients? Okay, so then the idea with this is that we create digital copies of individuals, okay, in the computer. And then with that digital copy, you can do whatever you want, okay? So then if that digital copy dies because the treatment exactly is not adequate, then it's in the computer. It's not the real person. Okay?
Yeah,
you can
I haven't actually died.
Yes.
Shit, we forgot to give them drugs to the digital copy. We give it to actually Sam instead.
The digital copy's all happy and Sam's just dead.
Yeah. So So this project is massive. So the European Union is putting 10 million euros on that.
Big money.
Companies like Siemens is part of the project.
They do a lot of development for machines in hospitals, don't they, Siemens? Is that right?
Yeah, but then they also do, obviously software, they do a lot of things.
I get, so this is just a general question about the project. It sounds really interesting. I get like the general patterns, and like if I found out where you're from, your height, your past history, I'll make a good guess about how long. But as you say, it's a general guess. It's based on these general measures. How do you get the info then on like something so granular? How do I find everything?
The gold standard is to develop a mechanistic model. So literally, you write the differential equations and that's it. Okay. So that's the gold standard.
Yeah. Okay.
Now, you can write differential equations for modeling fluids to modeling basic things.
Yeah.
Okay, but if you want to model a person, I mean, and even this project is not modeling the whole person. It's just modeling. It's modeling heart, brain,
main organs,
and then the neuroskeletal system. Okay, so then. This is the mechanistic, but we acknowledge that it's not enough because you cannot consider all the aspects. So, for instance, social aspects. So, how, for instance, this model is influenced by aspects like commuting time, okay? What you have for breakfast. Because if you want to have a digital copy of...
You need to know everything.
You need to know everything.
Yeah. Do they work night shifts?
Yeah, so exactly. So,
yeah.
all these kind of things, it needs to be lifestyle, everything needs to be there. So, then what we are doing is... So we take as the baseline a mechanistic model. So basically we say, let's do what we can do with this mechanistic model, and then we wrap this model with machine learning. Okay. Now in machine learning as a statistics has the problem that is trapped with the what the data can tell you.
Yeah.
If it's not in the data, the model is not going to learn that. So how can we move away from that? So then for that, we generate data. So we use generative AI. Okay. So then with that, you can see other views of the individual. Okay. And then with that, you can find these links between different nodes in the, you can see that individuals, they will become a graph. Okay. With things interconnected.
Yeah.
You have as the baseline your mechanistic model, and then on top of that you have all this graph that is learned using machine learning. Okay, and then the idea is that so with that is because it's not only in terms of space but also in terms of time. So the idea is that you can say, okay, this is you today, but what is going to happen to you in
10 years?
10 years, 2 days. Okay, we can move in time things. Okay.
Sick.
So that's the idea with the whole thing. Yeah. So I mean, with my colleague, with Sandra. Okay. So we designed
Shout out Sandra.
The whole thing. I remember spending many nights, just literally on paper, writing equations, putting things.
I remember seeing the application for that, and it was about that.
Like the Bible.
Honestly.
And then
wow.
there was, obviously, we feel really, really proud of that project. So, and particularly because with this kind of project that we really, really sat together and started to, literally on paper, and then taking risk on things. Okay, so because there are a lot of things that we are saying here that they are already, so they are not there yet. So
there's no evidence, yeah.
No, So we need to design something that really, really, really could work and persuade, other people, companies like Siemens.
That this also could work.
This is something that could work. This hospitals. So bringing together clinicians, they could, they say, okay, this is something that I see the point of this, and I can follow that. I can believe that this is achievable. And so on, and so on, and so on. Okay.
And that, you know what, Ivan, that deserves a well done, because, like, people get stuck in the way, especially in the clinical world, as you say, taking a risk, even in the scientific world. If it's not on paper, if it's not been done before, it's like, oh, it doesn't exist, I'm not doing it. Like, people, I've always said to him, and we may have discussions about it, I don't think there is enough risk taken in science. Everything's like, if we can't, it's not by the book. If there's not a lot of evidence for it, we're not taking a risk.
Yeah.
But some people, go with you. I like risk takers. You know what I mean? You got to take a risk. You know what I mean? You've got to put your neck on the line and say, I believe in this.
Yeah, that's I guess that's
so
science.
Well done.
Okay. Get some more beer. Cheers.
So then, I suppose that leads into a natural question. I think I know what your answer is based on the conversation. There is obviously machine learning, AI focused in research, and we hear a lot in the news of where AI is going, blah blah blah. Where do you think in like the next 5-10 years will be the most beneficial area that machine learning AI will impact? Will it be healthcare? Will it be something else? Or
I mean, one thing is, I would say my hope, and the other thing is the reality that might be completely different. I really don't know. So my hope is that obviously AI is, I mean, for the benefit of any discipline that can be applied. I am biased towards healthcare because
you work in that area.
And then you see the benefit so it's because we're here talking about people, and then when you see in the news, for instance, things with cancer, with cardiovascular disease, and COVID, okay, and then and you know that potentially the things that you are doing, okay, will solve
at least one of those problems in those areas.
I, for instance, things like visiting the GP, okay, something that potentially can be just solved by intelligent system that you can.
Your digital twin.
Yes.
I would much rather go to a computer than a GP. My GP just Googles everything.
Yeah, I mean, I was not planning to say that, but I will say that.
No, don't worry, Ivan. I will say.
I went to the GP once. Can you hear this? Can you hear my neck? See, no.
Can you hear this?
No, listen. Can you hear my neck? Listen.
Oh shit, dude.
Yeah. So my
Your
neck
clicking.
clicks. Right.
Yeah.
So I went to the GP once. Right. I was like, right, my neck clicks. It never used to click, but now it clicks. What's going on here? It's not. It's probably not supposed to click. Like when you get to a junction where you got to look round and you're like that. I sound like the indicator. Right. So I went in and then she had a book out. She had Google, and in the end, do you want to see what a diagnosis was for my neck? That never used to click, but now clicks. I just have a clicky neck.
A clicky neck.
That's it.
That was her medical diagnosis.
Yeah.
I was like.
But you know what though?
I'll just leave.
My auntie was with a clinician for years, and like I think as the population, we always want an answer. And he just said to us once, he went, everyone comes with wanting a solution now. And I suppose that's what machines could solve. Yeah, but we just don't know what's wrong with you sometimes. Sometimes we've got to say,
a lot of
I don't know.
I acknowledge that. I would say most of the cases we really don't know. I mean, clinicians really don't know. There is a lot of uncertainty.
A lot of trial and error.
But but one aspect that I see problematic is, I mean, nowadays is that accessing the GP. Okay, so for instance, even so, the practice I've been attending that practice for since I've been living in the same area for several years now. After COVID, it's been a nightmare. Yeah. So I remember, for instance, a few weeks ago, that receiving a text from my GP saying, because of your age, you
flu jab, is it?
You have the right for a health check.
Yeah, like
So I say, okay, that's nice. And then so there was a link. Click on that link, and then you can book the appointment. So I click on the link, and obviously there were no appointments available. Okay.
Then never.
And I say, and then you had 7 days. So the link was just valid for 7 days. So it was me every night trying to to
get an appointment. Yeah.
Because the other option is to call, because if not, then you can ring the practice, but you're not going to get there. So I say, okay, let's try. And then I thought, okay, maybe let's try to book up normal appointment through the website. That is this patient's system they have. I don't know. Then there are never appointments available, by the way. And then I noticed there was an appointment available. So I'm gonna click on that. So I choose that, and then it said, you don't have the right for more appointments online because you have got too many appointments this year.
Online?
Yes.
So too many appointments.
I was trying to remember and say, okay, maybe this one 2 appointments this year.
How can someone have too many appointments? If you're sick, you're sick. You've been sick too many times.
You're there dying well, tough shit, mate. You've had your lot.
Yeah, you've been twice already now, mate.
So I tried to click on the original link again, and then obviously I got the notification saying it's not valid anymore. So basically I need to ring the practice.
Fun.
Yeah. So this is not working. Okay.
And you can 100% see the utility of a AI-driven GP diagnostic.
Yeah, I mean,
checker or
definitely. So
or
I
even
think,
if just as a triage system.
You could see just going right from machine to pharmacy. So like
Yeah.
loads of problems which people get, if you let people know, if you've got a rash, let the machine find out what it is. You don't need the GP for the prescription.
And all the technologies are already there. So, for instance, detecting many of the skin conditions. This is a problem that is already solved.
You should just be able to here's what you've got, go to pharmacy, get the ingredient.
And then...
So is that where you see the biggest impact coming from machine learning?
not the big. I mean, not the biggest impact. This is the impact that I would like to see very, very soon. Okay?
Yeah.
Because probably that. But in general, AI in health basically is a thing I see as a lot of benefit. Okay. I mean, impact in many areas, but a lot of benefit in health. Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Nice.
And it's, not because clinicians, they are not doing the work properly, so it's not like that, so they do a massive job, but it's, having this system that have access to all this information that the clinicians can use, to make these
to help improve the
final decision.
But imagine how much relief a GP would get if even 20% of the appointments, which was simple diagnostics, went under the carpet, went through a machine right to pharmacy, and they dealt with more serious matters where maybe, I don't know, someone wants to actually see a doctor. But I know simple stuff where you've had simple things. You personally cannot be bothered going to GP. You just want it, whatever the medicine. I just want to go to the pharmacy, but you need to go to get it, and it's a nice. So that
we are very close to that. I think obviously not, because it's not only technology. In terms of technology, I think
it could be done.
It could be done. It's just a question of obviously there is also politics, but there is also what is the impact that it's going to have in the practices. There are a lot of things.
Yeah, because then I suppose the impact you've got to measure as well as a lot of old people are just going to not get on board with that.
Yeah, so for instance, you don't. One of the aspects that is a sensitive aspect.
You don't want to isolate the older generation.
Yeah, exactly. So there is people that might get isolated because of that. So they might lose, and we don't want this kind of thing. So we need to be careful with all of that.
So it's a balancing act, isn't it? But I can definitely see the utility.
Yeah.
But then I suppose the natural question that comes off the back of that is, what's be the biggest impact? What do you think is potentially that you see a lot of scaremongering around AI? What do you think is a genuine kind of
potential harm
or potential worry that may arise?
Obviously there are a lot of things that we so when you think about that, it's scary. So sounds scary. So for instance, with the army, for instance, in war, so giving machines that are controlled by intelligence system.
Don't Israel do that on the border? So
I'm not aware, but yes.
Let me just.
It's automated. I'm not sure it's AI.
Just before the Israeli.
Yeah, you're saying like letting a machine control the release of an explosion, or.
Yeah, I mean the thing is that when during peace time.
Yeah.
So then there is a lot of control, there are a lot of regulation and things, but as soon as we go,
to war,
everything
goes out the window.
Exactly. So you saw that. I mean, obviously we know that for the last,
the last big punch up.
You see the last big scrap we had.
Yeah, you see how things started.
Yeah.
Very, very quickly started to deteriorate a lot. And
it's the famous thing, isn't it? Is when did I was going to say Warner Brothers? When did the Wright brothers discover flight? It was late 1800s, and then by the end of 1944,
we already have
jet planes.
Yeah.
Because of two wars.
Yeah, wars progress innovation, but it's using that innovation for the wrong things.
It's done so outside of normal regular. Can't say that word. Regulatory means.
Yeah, I mean this is the aspect, and then there are a lot of obviously jobs that we see that
we've had that discussion, haven't we? Like self-driving cars, taxi drivers are going to be, and delivery drivers.
And it's, I mean, this interesting that aspect of taxi drivers because, for instance, companies like Uber, so they are pretty much collecting data from
Every single driver.
human drivers to be able to train their.
I've seen their videos on YouTube as well of the early tests that they've been doing where they put these two old fellas in their 80s in a taxi without the driver and the pair of them sit in it and they go, and it's like it's fun. They've put it up because it's funny, but they're going.
There is a funny video because that they are testing that in San Francisco.
And
there was a situation that I think the police was blocking the one road, and then the taxi, the self-driving taxi, didn't know what to do with that, and just pretty much it stopped there. And then the police was saying, move the car away," and the people in the car were like, "I don't know what to do."
In the back, "Don't shoot me."
Yeah, so you need to move the car, and they was like, "Boys,
it's just a so yeah."
So I don't know what to do with this. Yeah,
that's funny that.
But yeah, I mean, obviously, I think we can spend days just talking about potentially, but I mean, there is also the risk that we fall again into another dark age in AI. Because there is being a lot of...
I remember you telling us about that in Masters.
Yeah, so I mean, if you see, that's the reason it's important to to see the history of things. So with neural networks, pretty much they started with with the perceptron in the 50s. So there was a lot of hype with that. So that was in the news. Newspaper was saying that machines were going to control the world and all of that.
How cyclical it was the world is, isn't it?
With the developing of just one neuron, neuron that was the perceptron, and then yes, there was a minor problem about nonlinear models. Okay,
and it all just got put in the bin basically.
And then there was Marvin Minsky. Paper. Marvin Minsky was the.
I remember you giving us like an hour lecture on
the
this.
father of AI, if you like.
Yeah.
They wrote this book, Perceptron. Basically, they killed the perceptron with that. So because they showed that you couldn't solve a non-linear problem. I mean, a non-linear separable problem. Okay, so then they took easily 16 years to solve that problem. Okay, 16 years. And then meanwhile, I mean, we say that was our first dark age. I would say, I mean, in a different way, that yes, there was a dark age for...
Sorry, I'm having trouble with connection.
It's okay, that won't come up.
Siri doesn't like us.
Siri doesn't like what I'm saying about...
Shut up.
The machines are fighting back.
Oh my God! Everybody run!
Yeah, so I'm just looking, there's not any drone coming. So then, but I mean, there was a lot of things in AI in that period of time. There was, in logic and all of that. And then in the 90s, there was a lot of things that we know these days were actually developed in the 90s. There was a lot of things that were developed, convolutional neural networks, LSTM, all of that was developed in the 90s.
LSTM was developed in the 90s?
Yeah, all of that is from the 90s. Okay, the only major thing from, this era, if you like, is generative adversarial networks.
Is that like the actual only real... true development?
I mean, obviously, it's difficult to say. I mean, transformers and all of that, but attention mechanism as well. So this is 2015 onwards. Okay, but all these things like LSTMs, general recurrent neural networks, CNN, all of the convolutional neural networks, all of that. This is from the 90s. But then there was this. What was the issue? The issue was that, yes, in the lab, everything was working. But then, obviously, the industry was interested, okay, now let's try to solve real problems. And then people started to have real issues with that. Because we didn't have the computing power to solve this kind of problems, okay? And then, now we have that. But then, now that the problem is always, I think, so when we start a new dark age, is when we have very high expectation.
And
we
always fall short.
Yeah. So and then people then realize, oh, actually we are not there as we thought. So then, for instance, now with generative AI,
like ChatGPT is getting worse, isn't it?
Exactly. So and then there is this high expectation that now suddenly with generative AI, or large language models, for instance, things like you can do pretty much everything. And then you get surprised when you get an answer that actually this is not exactly what on this kind of, and then you say, oh, actually I actually cannot solve this with this. Okay, so you say, okay, yes, I can just let's input the system, and then I will get everything. And then you realize, oh no, wait a minute, I still need to spend time in reviewing all the things that it's doing. So this is not exactly what I was expecting. I was expecting just to solve the problem.
So then people stop using it.
Then people may start, and then people may say, okay, we are not there yet, and this is a risk. I'm not saying that this is going to happen, but it's just a risk. So then anything can happen. So maybe we can just carry on, so progressing on this, but there is a limitation also with hardware.
I see that coming though, in that
Which coming?
Exactly what you were saying there, because after doing like some reading and stuff about, say, the .com bubble years ago, it's so similar. Like basically you see companies now where they use the word AI and they're getting like hundreds of millions of pounds in backing, being valued at billion-dollar companies, but there's no way all of these companies can deliver. So at some point somebody's going to lose a lot of money on an AI investment.
This is something that this is going to happen. To me, it's clear that it's going to happen. I'm probably, they know that. They already know that. So investors probably they're putting money in different companies, and then probably they know, okay, a few of them will only survive because you see there is an explosion in the number of companies you are having now. And then but it's more fundamental than that. So it's about AI itself is gonna. But because there is also a limitation with hardware, so there is also limitation in the aspect of environment, for instance. So there is you start seeing that pressure that if AI is environmentally friendly or not. So it's clear that this probably is not.
Like
so there is a lot of
same questions got thrown up about Bitcoin.
Exactly.
What was it? It contributed to like an actual measurable percentage of the world's carbon emissions was people doing Bitcoin transactions, for example. So then it became very much a contentious topic because it's like, right, people want this new technology, but look at what it's doing elsewhere.
And the question also is that if we are taking the right path towards what we call AGI, so artificial general intelligence, because this is the ultimate aim.
It's like the god status of AI, if you like.
Exactly. So at least in terms of
how far do you genuinely think we're away from that? Because I still think we're nowhere near.
The problem with, just to say that the problem with artificial intelligence is as soon as you develop something that is intelligent. So you say, for instance, we put a target. So I don't know, in the 70s was to be able to develop a system that was able to play chess. That was, and then we hit that. So there was in the 90s, okay, with the Deep Blue, I think it was called.
And then you got Google's DeepMind and.
No, that was before that. It was with IBM. IBM developed this I think it was Deep Blue that was developed. That was 1998 or so.
Right. Ah, right. Okay.
And then I was like, okay, so we need to go for some,
We need to make something more intelligent.
Yeah, because then people say, oh yes, it's just it's not really intelligent
enough.
So then Go, and then it was developed Go.
Have you ever seen the documentary on that on YouTube?
No, I don't.
Have you ever watched it?
I know the game Go, and I know there's a documentary you told me to watch.
So good.
Yeah. So and then it's like, okay, so a few years ago people were saying, oh no, it's just a machine will never being able to write a poem or to compose a musical piece or to paint, and now we have these kind of things, and then this debate that if it is actually art or not, and there is then put into question what is art actually, and this kind of thing. So is the problem with, so to your question, so the problem is that every time we hit, this kind of a target,
There's another ceiling.
there is
There's
another ceiling. So then, so to me, I mean, when we talk about AGI, probably we are still far from that, okay? But then there is also the aspect on whether we really want AGI.
To get there in the first place.
Yeah, because, I mean, I would like to, but this is just because I interested on this, but it's in the aspect that if we really need that or not. So
Socially, do we need it?
Yeah, so I don't have the answer for that. It's just putting that question. We really need AGI or not. And then if it happens that it's not needed, what you need is something that, for instance, is good at predicting, cardiovascular disease.
Like object-specific
or
AI.
You want the same system that is able to predict cardiovascular disease, able to, to design buildings or you want the same, because this is a AGI. I mean, but we are not able to do that either.
Yeah.
So
I know what you're saying. Like, we're not quite sure if we want that. The philosophical question is that something we want? Do we want to just keep it in these, predict cardiovascular disease, do this?
So we want
some
exactly.
system.
Well, I suppose the question is sentience, then, isn't it? Do we want something which is a piece of AI that can be applied generally to any task, or something which is a sentient piece of...
Exactly. So this is so the because again, so it's another philosophical question on that. Why do we want to develop this kind of thing? So because we really want to work on this for the benefit of humanity, or it's just because we want this ego, okay? Or so this so I don't see these kind of tasks that we really need a system that is comprehensive in terms of intelligence. Okay.
That's the thing with humans, though. I think, whether it's 50 years away, 100 years away, 10 years away, someone will do it because even if it's not what we want, it's what we want. Like, exactly, humans, whatever it is in us, we always want more. It's the next thing. It's the next. I can bench press 60 kilograms. I want to do 70. Well, I want to bench press 80 now. Well, I've done this model. Well, I want to design a better one. Well, I scored 30 goals last year. I want to score 32 next. We just want the next thing.
Yeah,
so
I guess that there is also the question on where perhaps we want to prove if we are unique or not. This obviously to the terrain of religion and these kind of things.
Creationism versus
exactly. So then perhaps if we can prove that we are actually not so special, okay, so then they put us back to the biological aspect. I wonder
what effect that would have on the planet if we found out. People's lives would crumble before them.
Well, I suppose it depends on... This has got very philosophical and deep. But I suppose
because I'm on the podcast.
This is the question.
I suppose it depends on your belief system. Like, for me, I don't think it'd bother me that much.
Yeah, but that's because you're not wedded to some religion.
No, but that's what I'm trying to say. But I think a lot of people would...
that's what I mean. It changed the fabric of how they're living. I want to ask Ivan a question before we get on to the last few questions, which will tie us to the closing questions. As someone who's in this area, then you taught me and Ryan, you're heavily in this area, and you're talking about art before. If you enjoyed a piece of music, and then I told you it was made by a person, and then I told you, actually it was made by a machine, does it? As a person who is in this area, loves this area, how does it affect you? Or if I give you a painting, would you be upset or not upset? Would you be more inclined to purchase the one by the human, or would you give the exact same money for the one by the machine?
I think, it's interesting because I have the feeling that I will still go for the human.
You would, okay.
Yeah, so I don't know saying, I haven't heard a piece of music that
you liked that was AI.
Yeah, exactly. But for instance, with a paint or something like that. Yes, it's always the feeling that yes, there was a machine there, and like that makes the thing.
It loses sort of the emotion and the value. Yeah.
And probably it might be the case that this is what is going to happen in the end. So
I think it'll change over time. People will become more accustomed to those.
Yeah, but I think
pieces,
at the moment I will stick with humans. Yeah.
Oh no, because I've had the same thoughts, and it's like, what do I prefer? But I think that for quick and dirty stuff, I'm really not bothered. Like, I would use AI.
Yeah,
but if it's something I'm going to purchase for something of feeling or emotion or something to collect on that essence of handmade is like, wow, yeah.
That's what I mean. If you're spending £100 or £500, £1,000 on a painting, whatever, you want it to be done by a human, don't you? I don't think, even if it's amazing by the machine, I think the very nature.
I think now I changing the question slightly. Okay. So, for instance, Pink Floyd.
I love Pink Floyd.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite bands.
Shine on you, Crazy Diamond.
So then, for instance, yes. But Pink Floyd, you know that this band from Australia, it's called the Australian Pink Floyd,
yeah?
or something like that.
I've seen them.
you went to
I've seen them, and I've seen Brit Floyd as well.
Okay, so and it seems that they perform very well.
Yeah, they're amazing. They're amazing.
But I was never tempted to go
because it wasn't them.
Because they were not exactly David Gilmour was. So it's and perhaps so what I'm trying to say with this is that, so for instance, it's the same with ABBA. I mean, I'm not a fan of ABBA or something.
I am.
but the so for instance, when they did this
hologram tour,
the hologram thing,
just not bothered.
I didn't bother. So, and perhaps it's that aspect of
it's like you're creating something on the night with that person and that performance.
Probably because, I mean, with generative AI, you have still the feeling that piece of art is being created by mixing a lot of things that are already there. Even that these are very complicated things that you're mixing there, because you are generating things, but it's in the end you are bounded by what the system has seen before.
Yeah.
In the end,
so you're not creating anything new and groundbreaking.
Yeah, even that it look like. But then there's also the question: there is if that humans they also create things completely new,
or if
it's just the same.
Yeah, I'm fully convinced that when humans create, Ivan, it is you're pulling on everything, aren't you, that you've ever seen, and it's not new, is it? You create a piece of art. You don't just imagine, I'm going to paint this. You think of absolutely everything you've ever subconsciously, and then you paint it, and it comes out of you. But I know what you mean by the Pink Floyd, because I went and seen Australian Pink Floyd, Brit Floyd, and even though they're amazing, when I go and watch a band who actually is the band,
exactly.
It's different.
So it means so probably it's the same. It will happen to me, for instance, if it is a piece of music that is being generated by an artificial system, or I mean, this is me now. I don't know.
It might change.
20
years might be different.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, so we'll have to wrap up because I think we're slightly running over. But thank you for your time for coming on. But we finish with two questions before we finish, and the first of the two is Sam's famous question. So take it away, Sam.
Dead quick, Ivan. Are you ready? You're gonna die tomorrow. This is when it gets philosophical. This podcast. You're gonna die tomorrow. Sorry, Ivan. You got this disease. Your days are done. But I am the great provider of information, and I come down to you and say, what is the one thing you want to know that you currently don't know that I will give you the answer to before you die? It'll make that good night a little bit easier. Could be anything. Could be a big question, It
could be something you don't know, something society doesn't know, personal,
or it could be
thing.
personal.
What would it be?
I mean, my question would be, what is the reason for us to be here? Okay,
yeah. That's very similar to. Was it Evo that said? Evo said the same thing. Yeah,
it's just to me. I mean, I'm not. I mean, I'm an atheist, so I don't follow any religion. And then, I mean, when you follow a particular religion,
there's a reason.
There is a reason, but in my case, it's like, okay, yes, I see, for instance, my dog. So she's a greyhound, so she sleeps 18 hours. Okay. And all what she does is, she eats,
runs,
number 2, back to
bed
to sleep.
Yeah, and I say, what is the reason for having a dog? So why a dog is there? So why So is this? Yes, I mean we can explain all the biological thing.
You mean
yes,
for,
it's genes and all of that.
but why?
But why? So that's the thing I would like to know if you can tell me that.
I like it.
The answer to that would either be the most beautiful thing ever, or it would be the most depressing thing ever.
Yeah.
It's like we had someone say, "Oh, I'd like to know if there was anything afterwards when you die." And we were like, "That's got to be the worst question, because what if the answer's no, and you're about to die? You're like, oh no."
Yeah.
But yeah,
Like,
so there won't
go
be
on then,
any
Ryan.
So the
wrap
last
us up.
question is, what is your favourite piece of music of all time? Favourite song?
My favorite song.
Floyd,
I mean,
isn't it?
I obviously that will change. Over the
Yeah.
Probably every time you ask me the same question, I will say something different. But so I would pick Echo from Pink Floyd.
Which song?
Echo.
Echoes.
Yeah.
Oh, what a song, man! That's a David Gilmour
Yeah.
on his own. Yeah, that's when Roger had left and David was on his own. Great album. Great.
So we've got a playlist. So this will be. So yours will be the last addition to the first volume of guest.
Okay. I mean that song is like 24 minutes long. So
Yeah, well said. Doesn't matter.
What a song to end it on.
yeah.
We need a Floyd on there. No one's given us
Yeah.
one yet.
And what a guest to end season 1 on. So now we're on episode 29. We're going to call this the end of season 1. It's been a nice learning experience. We've had loads of guests on, and we've got loads more guests coming on. But thank you for sticking with us. If you liked it, please make sure you like it. Comment if you have any thoughts. And if you dislike it, there's a button for that. But we hate you all the same.
We
but thanks,
hate you so
we hate
much.
you. But thanks for watching. It's a view all the same. That's it from us. Thank you again, Ivan, for coming on.
Thank you very
Thank you
much,
for having
Ivan.
me, yeah.
And we'll see you in the
Thank
next
you very
one.
much. Peace out, people.
Peace
Ta-ra.
out.